Hot Flashes and Cool Topics, a podcast for women in midlife and beyond. Here at Hot Flashes and Cool Topics, we talk about anything and everything to do with midlife. My name is Colleen.
My name is Bridget.
And today we have on a really wonderful guest. Her name is Dani Klein Modisett, who is a comedian living in LA. And Bridget actually discovered her while reading Patricia Heaton's book that just came out.
My second act, yes.
My second act, thank you. And she has pivoted so many times in her career, but what she's doing now is amazing. She has started a company called Laughter on Call. And they are working with Alzheimer patients where they literally connect a comedian one-on-one to an Alzheimer patient or online or to a group of people and connect them and engage them. She has a company called Laughter on Call, and it's doing a wonderful thing in that it is really getting one-on-one contact with Alzheimer's patients and dementia patients and making them laugh. So she'll find a comedian, and that comedian may have had a history with a grandparent who had Alzheimer's or a friend who might have had dementia, and offers their time to go and one-on-one. It is a paid service, but one-on-one, spend time making that person laugh and maybe having some cognitive exercise during their day. You might have a group of Alzheimer's patients. They might come in and talk to a facility. And, COVID has definitely affected that, but they've pivoted online. And wow, I mean, Bridget discovered her, and I just was so happy that she
it was so amazing. Like, I was listening to Patricia Heaton's book because it is my second act, and we talk a lot about different things that you could do, our second act. And I listened to it while I'm doing laundry and everything else. And then I heard about her, and I heard about what she did, how she's a comedian, taught at UCLA. She's been a stand-up comic for like 20 years. And she's also an author. So I know she wrote, I'll talk about that too when we start talking to her. And I actually listened to one of her books on marriage, and it was really great. Just great.
Right. Like she is just really, she's not just a comedian, but she teaches comedy.
She does. She teaches. Yeah. And just to use that, and you'll find out in our interview with her how she came up with this idea to help out her mother, and how it's just grown to help all these other people. And also, not only does it help the other people, it helps the comedians as well. I mean, comedians are always, especially if they're starting out, you are looking for work. If you're in the entertainment industry, you are looking for something to do. But she just doesn't pick any comedian. Like, you've got to talk to her, and you've got to be the right fit, the right type of comedian to work with her. And
have the right intent to what you want from this.
Right.
If you're not putting your heart and soul into trying to make a smile come onto their face, then
then you're not going to be a good
fit
for her.
It's not a genuine
right. It's got to be genuine, and it's it's probably not that difficult to find someone who has been touched by a relative or a loved one that has a memory care issue. My mother, it was the end of her life. It was very short, but it was dementia with her. It was maybe 8 months, but it started to happen. Other people could be going through this for years.
Right.
Yes.
And, it's also a nice idea. She does lunchtime laughter.
Yes.
And every day, Monday through Friday, we'll have the link. So that also gives the caregiver a little break to sit and just laugh with their family member, or to be able to, just take a breath and not feel like you're on all the time. So for 30 minutes, your loved one is engaged in this Zoom call, but they're also using their cognitive abilities to keep them fresh, to keep them in existence. So it's a great thing to offer. And it's just, wow. Thank you, Dani. That's just an awesome thing. And she talks about how making eye contact with Alzheimer's patients is so helpful. And music, I mean, I remember with my dad towards the end, just playing Motown, and he would get a smile on his face. So anything that connects them to a memory when they're losing those memories is so important.
It is, because they are still there. You may think they're, just because not all of their brain is still working like it was, they're still there. So I really admire what she's done. And you can reach her at her laughteroncall.com. That's their website. And there is also info at laughteroncall.com if you want to reach out to her.
So let's let Dani tell her story.
Yes. Welcome to Hot Flashes and Cold Topics. And today we have Dani Klein Modisett here. And she is a comedian. She has been a comedian for over 20 years. And you've been a teacher at UCLA. And she's written 2 books. One is Take My Spouse, Please, and the importance of laughter in your marriage. And then her other one is Afterbirth Stories. And it's things you won't read in a parenting magazine. But we're so excited to talk to her. But the really cool thing that I found out about her is that she started such a wonderful service called Laughter on Call. So I'm going to let her tell you all about that.
Can you tell us about Laughter on Call?
Yes.
Hi, everyone. Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me on here.
Oh,
so
yeah. For being here.
Laughter on Call. So as you can see from my work, I've done a lot of work with laughter and family life, and kind of taking comedy out of the clubs and into your home, if you will. And it was interesting, as I was on tour, I did a 15-city book tour with Take My Spouse, Please. And while I was on tour, my mother was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, and she was living in Manhattan by herself. And so I routed the tour through there, and I spent as much time as I could. And it was getting progressively worse and increasingly more expensive. It was about $17,000 a month to maintain her life, right? New York City and all, and round-the-clock care. And at a certain point, she wasn't even leaving her room. And so I was like, well, this is crazy. Like, this is not good. I have 2 children. I live in Los Angeles. Like, come and live. And my sister lives in Boston. And we kind of did some preliminary research, and with the weather and my kids, we said, okay, LA. So she came to LA, and I found a place called Silverado Beverly Place, which is a specific senior community that is dedicated to memory care. Because a lot of places, everybody's kind of jumping in now with memory care because it's inevitable and there's such a growing population. But what happens is you go and they show you this beautiful place, and then they kind of whisper and say, and that's the memory care over there.
Right, behind that locked door.
Yeah, yes, exactly. Exactly. And then you go in there and it's like a penitentiary, and you're like, oh no, I can't do this to my mother. No. But and that's not all places. And you know, that was 7 years ago, and they've all adapted and done their best. I mean, they are stymied by the fact that you have to keep the door locked. So there is that given. But nevertheless, Silverado, their whole philosophy, they only deal with memory care, and they have many properties, and they have this philosophy of, you know, turning fear into love, which spoke really loudly to me, because I felt like that's one of the biggest challenges of Alzheimer's, is how afraid people are of it, and the kind of the stigma around it. And, you know, I always say, like, my father died of cancer 25 years ago. And it was sad, and morphine, and, you know, as ugly as cancer gets. And yet people visited him until the day before he died. They were there. And then my mother got Alzheimer's, and pretty much within 6 months, there was like one friend who would visit. And I hear that a lot on speaking engagements for caregivers. You hear that, like, families just are really uncomfortable. They don't know what to do, and they don't know what to say, and they don't like it. And then there's that, you know, unique group of people who are like, I just want to remember her the way she was.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Those people I'm not such a fan of. But what happened was, so I brought my mother to Silverado, and also it had like an amazing chandelier, and so it looked very Upper East Side. So I think initially she was like, okay, you know. But then within a couple months, she realized she wasn't leaving, and she became depressed and withdrawn, and she wasn't really eating. And of course, I felt terrible about it. And I was at my dentist, and, you know, because it's LA, she's also like a life coach. and I was like crying, and she wasn't drilling, so she knew there was a problem. And I was just said, you know, I just feel so bad about my mother. You know, I wish I could hire a comedian to cheer her up. And she was like, oh, well, why don't you do that? You should do that. And I thought, oh, can you do that? And she was like, yeah, just try it. Just go and see what happens. So I went home and I put up on Facebook, looking for a comedian interested in gerontology, paid gig. And then my phone rang, like, because I wanted people to call. So I paid them, so maybe they'll call. So the phone rang immediately, and it was my friend in New York, and she said, oh, I just got off the phone with my friend in LA. She's a comedian and she loves seniors. She's like sitting on park benches. You should call her. So I called the woman immediately and she came over and she sat down with my mother. And of course she did everything instinctively that we now train and teach, which is, she got at eye level with her. She looked her right in the eye. She told the truth. She just said, I know this is really awkward. I'm sure you don't want to talk to me, right? You're probably just thinking, who is this schmuck just talking? And just like you, my mother started to laugh. And then she heard the word schmuck and then she repeated the word schmuck because it was like schmuck. Like that was like a funny word from her childhood, I'm sure. And so, so they had this instant connection and then they just started kind of making each other laugh, and the woman offered her water, and it was just this like brightness that I hadn't seen. And I was like, of course, okay, you're hired. So, so I hired her to come 8 hours a week, and she could make her own schedule because comedians like to make their own schedule. Although it's best around a meal time, it's more social. And so I would say like within a week or two, my mother's whole demeanor changed and she started eating and she was more engaged with the community and singing, and it just had this profound effect on her being. And I just remember, in that moment thinking, oh my God, this has to be everywhere. Like, this is crazy. This should be everywhere. Like, there's always comedians that need work. And there's an ever-growing population of people that need this kind of interaction. So I wrote an article about the experience for AARP magazine, and I got like hundreds of responses from all over the country. I need a comedian in Pittsburgh. Can you have a comedian? How about Tallahassee? Well, a comedian in Kansas. My wife needs a comedian. And so I thought, well, how could I not do this? Like, it was interesting because you talked about the book, right? So the thing about the book, which was really saved my marriage, and I'm a firm believer in everything I wrote, but there's a lot of experts in the field of marriage. You have John Gottman, you have Esther Perel, like they know their stuff and they teach workshops and they're, at the front lines, and they also believe in humor. They're big believers in humor. So I kind of looked at that landscape and was like, okay, well, I could do this. But then, and that's the thing, like I was on tour with that. But then when this showed up, I was like, oh, but these people have no clue. Like there is nobody who's going to bring laughter to this group but me. Like, because as it is, people thought I was crazy, not that crazy, but you know what I mean? Like, what an odd, and the reason that, I thought about, after seeing it, okay, witnessing it myself, but then also experiencing caregivers with my mother, to me, the amount of courage that it takes for those people to show up every day, not knowing what is going to hit them, how they're going to be like spoken to, because people with Alzheimer's, they go through a very angry phase. It's a total jump ball every day, and they continue to show up. And I thought, man, that's just an incredible amount of courage. And then I thought, oh, right. And comedians, the thing you hear as a comedian always, oh, I could never do that. I could never do that. That's the scariest thing in the world to do. How could you do that? So it's like that idea that comedians also crazy amount of courage to they show up, they face a room full of strangers, and they're committed to making them laugh. So I just felt there was a real synergy between that courage being, and in fact, our initial tagline was laughter on call, hope one laugh at a time. And then I realized that's really kind of a misnomer because there's no cure. Hope is a tough thing to present to people, but courage is what we really can offer. And so we changed the tag. It's courage, one laugh at a time. And now, of course, with COVID, it's connection, one laugh at a time.
Yes.
That's what we all need. But what I realized was that the courage was such an important piece of it. So anyway, the article came out. I had all this response, and I was like, okay, well, I have to do this because there's such a big need for it. And so I put together a business plan, and I went and I talked to some investors and about what I wanted to do, because I really wanted to be able to reach, because it wasn't a small project, you know what I mean? It wasn't like a bake sale for the kids. This was going to be, it was already like national. So I needed the funding underneath me. And the woman who ended up investing, her mother has Alzheimer's.
Okay.
And that's a lot of my staff and a lot of the people, a lot of the comedians. People have been touched, by the disease. It's what compels them. And so we got some seed money and we started, and pretty quickly after I was out talking to executive directors of these residential communities about like the one-on-one work and these are our services and blah, blah. And they'd be like, yeah. Okay, Dani, that's great. But could you come and train my staff? Because we really like them to have some of these tools. We'd like to know how to access people in this way. Well, since I had taught at UCLA for 10 years, I taught stand-up, and the book, the Take My Spouse Please book, is prescriptive. Every chapter is a tool. So I basically kind of rated that and put together a teaching acronym, and then started doing that for healthcare workers and for families. So it's Pilates. I say it's Pilates for seniors. HILATYS, and it's like breathing, being honest, imperfection is okay, letting go of the moment before, appreciating each other, paying attention to timing, yes, and like don't argue with somebody with Alzheimer's, and when in doubt, be silly. And so, and I have obviously now it's all webinar and PowerPoint, and we go through in depth, how best to utilize these different ideas. So that happened. And then, so we were doing that. We had comedians all over the country, and we were training out of our office. I built a home office. And so we had a camera, and we were training comedians to work one-on-one around the country. And then we were going into residential communities doing also improv shows, like interactive improv shows, because what I observed there was that the entertainment, you would go in and it would be, somebody singing Blowing in the Wind and half the people sleeping. And I was like, no, there's got to be something better than this. This is not good. So now we go in, we're two comedians. It's an interactive improv, where the audience, the seniors, are part of the storytelling. So if we're on a ship, then one guy plays the captain and somebody else plays the chanteuse. And, and we take all suggestions from them. And so it's very engaging, and no sleeping. Like we're not, unless you're real. I mean, some people really need to sleep.
Yeah.
But for the most part, like they sleep because there's no engagement,
Right.
So we were doing that. So we're like on the, ready to burst. We've had the Washington Post, we've had the New York Times, we've got all this press. So people are like, they know who we are and we're ready. We're like launched. And then COVID hits. So that's like March 13th. And of course the emails start coming in right away. We can't have you, can't do it. No. So it was a rainy Friday in LA. And I was like, oh man, we're in trouble. Like, what are we gonna do? And I was like, well, we can't not see these people. Like at this point we have relationships with all these people. So I say, we should just live stream. Now I didn't really know what that was, but I have
sounds like us.
Right. But my assistant is 30. And so she was like, yeah. So I said, all right, well, we need better lighting. We got to look, we got to be able to see us. So I got in my car and I went to like the local camera store here, and they were shutting the lights down, literally, closing, ma'am. What do you want? So I got some lights and I came back and I set up. And then that Monday, we went live at 12 o'clock, and we call it Lunchtime Laughter, because I wanted, I figured lunch, everybody will be together, caregivers and their people, it's a good time for them to be able to get a break and then be entertained. And so that was 120 episodes ago.
Wow.
Oh,
How has the response been?
It's great. I mean, some people, it's in keeping with who we are, so it's highly interactive. So if you come on and you don't, and I guess you could turn your camera off but we'll probably talk to you anyway. Like the whole idea is that we are trying to help people feel less isolated. So we have a group of 20 that are loyal, like they're there every day. And then we have people that pop in and out. And, sometimes they stay and sometimes they're like, oh, no, I don't want to, we've got a camera, it's like, but like pretty much 2 months into that. And then we came up with a format. Like at first, I'm one of those like jump first, figure it out later people. So, I didn't know what I was doing. I was like teaching, and we were like doing jokes and having guest stars. Patty Patricia Heaton
she
came
came
on.
on.
She was my first guest star. And then it was like interesting because then it suddenly became like a celebrity talk show. And that's not what we can't be that, because the whole idea is that people feel a part of. So, but I love Patty, so she can do whatever she wants.
Yeah.
And so that was a great lesson. And then, but pretty quickly I was like, oh wait, this again, like the same moment I had with my mother where I was like, this needs to be everywhere. I thought, wow, this needs to be everywhere. Like everyone is isolated right now. And simultaneously, I was getting sent all these articles from The Atlantic and Forbes and the Harvard Business Review, all about humor, all about the importance of laughter in isolation. So I was like, well, we have the answer, we're doing it. So we wrote up a bunch of different formats and then started pitching, and kind of that's where we are right now, is we're like in negotiations. We've talked to Microsoft, we talked to Citibank, we're talking to various healthcare communities. I've done a bunch of webinars with that Pilates acronym for healthcare workers. But basically, this idea of creating connection through shared laughter, through participatory laughter, not just, watching someone on a screen. Like that's nice. And look, laughter's laughter and it always will help. But the idea is this connection piece that we really are experts in. And so that's why we've been able to diversify, I think would be the word. So yeah, it's really fun. And the thing that's remarkable, and like me and my assistant who've done the 120 episodes together, we always say, it works for us. That's why we know it works, because we're just people like everybody else. Like, it's very hard. I have 2 kids. We're all living in a
weird time. Yeah, the weirdest time. Yeah.
You leave the house, it looks like a science fiction movie out. Like, it's very hard. And so some days at 11:45, like I'm not feeling very good, and I'm feeling concerned and anxious and a little depressed, and but by 12:30, by 12 o'clock, everybody comes on. We play some games, we laugh, we tell crazy stories about our lives. By 12:30, we're feeling better, all of us. So I feel a little bit like there was this, I grew up in the Northeast, right? So there used to be the hair club for men.
Yeah, sure.
And the guy from the hair, he'd be like, I'm not just the owner, I'm a customer. And I totally feel like that about Laughter on Call. Like I could talk about it to anybody because it personally changed my life and continues to change my life. So, ta-da!
Ta-da!
It's an amazing pivot story, because honestly, sometimes things happen and another door opens. I mean, I know that's cliche, but it's true. Like if you open your mind up to the possibilities of what can happen, you see something that wasn't there. And it is true. Like so many corporations have weekend retreats where they try to get to know each other, and they try to do these, you fall, I'll
team
catch
building.
you.
Yeah, team building.
That's so what a great way to team build if you're laughing at the same time, because laughing is such a strong coping skill for people. If you can laugh through a lot of the hard times, it alleviates some of the stress. And
and you're the exercises are all specific, so you're building a story together, so you're creating something together and laughing about it together, and that also creates connection.
And it brings a community, and a connection. So you get comedians. Can you talk a little bit about how you find the comedians and how you work with them to do this? Yeah.
So we find comedians. Initially, we did it the same way I first started, which is on Facebook, and we went to specific Facebook groups. We had a client in Maine that was looking for a comedian, and in like the tip of Maine, and so we found like Comedians of Maine.
Oh wow!
It was like a group, and so we started, and so we've done a lot of work through Facebook. Even though Facebook can be like, I can have some issues with Facebook. But as an access tool, it's amazing. I would say, and then word of mouth. Also, like you talk to one comedian in Florida, they know all the comedians in Florida. Pennsylvania, we know all the comedians in the Philadelphia area who are sympathetic and empathetic to seniors, right? It's not for every comedian. If your stock and trade is that you're mean and sarcastic and cutting, God bless you, that's not for us. Like we're like all about joy. So I did so joyfully. My voice doesn't really embody it. But we do, that's what we're bringing, you know? And so, but I'd say a lot of it's word of mouth. And I think maybe initially I did a Craigslist ad. Like that was back when I first started, and I had the idea, and I had like 4 friends over. And then I needed to take the temperature of if there were comedians that would do this, because I did have, I will say, like, men in their 50s, a couple of male comedians in their 50s are like, yeah, that's never going to work, you know, or, you know, that's never gonna work. Comedians aren't nice. What are you thinking? They're not going to do that. Well, I think I'm going to check it. I'm going to look into it. And so I put an ad in Craigslist, and I had 40 people in my house on a Sunday afternoon who were interested, and each with their own personal story. Like they took care of a grandparent, or they worked as a activities director, or, you know, they all had some reason why they wanted to be of service in this way. So, and then that's just been proven true all over the country. My favorite comedian, who's just stand-up, we don't do a lot of stand-up, again, because it's so presentational, but this guy, Marty Ross, he was just on America's Got Talent. He's 80, he's going to be 81. Oh, gosh. And he is adorable and so funny and so kind. And so he does all the birthday parties with me, or, you know, because we will, if somebody calls, and especially now on Zoom, even though comedians do not like Zoom, I'll just tell you.
That was my question. How is it harder to do comedy on Zoom because you can't feel the energy of a room?
Yes, I would say that it is harder. You really have to kind of rely on your instincts. I did a caregiver training for 250 people, and when you do an event like that, they don't use video because it draws too much of the,
like the Wi-Fi or internet or whatever. So
I was staring at 229 screens, just their names.
Blank screen.
No. It is.
No.
It's really hard. You just have to trust, like, hey, I'm funny. Okay. Guess that one was funny, huh, folks?
Dead silence. Isn't that your worst nightmare? When you tell a joke and there's dead silence? Like,
you just have to know that you're hopefully, but you do get to use the chat. So they can
they can type it in.
Yeah. So they were typing it in, and we had somebody monitoring the chat saying, "You're great, Dani." Okay.
Oh, wow.
Keep going.
Now, you said when you hired your friend for that first time, and she came 8 hours a week. So what is like a typical, if a family contacts you and they want someone, what would that typically be like if they want a comedian for their family member?
Well, it really depends on what your, how much support you want in that way. I mean, we do largely, we have about a handful still that are doing on Zoom now.
Yeah.
And it's really a half an hour. It's like half an hour twice a week.
Okay, twice a week. Okay.
Because Zoom is draining for everybody.
Yeah,
Not the same as sitting in the room with someone. So half an hour is about the attention span right now. But I mean, we had all kinds of permutations before COVID. We had an hour a week. We had 10 hours a week. Sometimes I think somebody had 12 hours a week. Like, it really just depends what the family wants and can afford. It's private pay. So, we're trying to figure out how to approach insurance. I've been talking.
Yeah. It's like a therapy. I feel like to me, it's a therapy.
Absolutely.
Right. So I've been talking to this researcher at Harvard who's really into laughter and has been following us. And so, and I guess they own like 9 senior communities, Harvard does. So we could do a study. So that's what we're, again, a lot of this is on a pause until there's a vaccine.
Right.
They're so vulnerable. You can't.
Oh, you can't.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the progression of the disease doesn't stop with COVID. So
In fact, it because of the isolation, it's I don't want to say escalating, but it's there. So much of what we do and why it's so important is the engagement, is to keep drawing them out and to keep connecting. And so if you add isolation on top of how isolated they already are, I think it's very detrimental.
Oh,
It's
it
been a real
is.
challenge.
Oh, my
There are
goodness.
so many companies that you can contact to do this. I mean, even if it's a distinction between the doctors who run these nursing homes or assisted living or memory care facilities, and then you have the caregiving companies that send the
Right.
caregivers out. I mean, I have a sister who's a caregiver
Oh, wow.
for
God bless her.
a couple.
Mhm.
I know. I don't know how I mean, she's all but 5'1", and some of these patients that she cares for, that she goes in their homes, it's, some have Alzheimer's, some are just dementia, some are aging and just need help.
Hmm.
But I keep thinking what a break it would be for her to be able
Right.
to just for 30 minutes sit there and laugh, because you do want to connect with them. And then sometimes that connection leads to a story. And a lot of them will remember stories or songs. So it's all
Exactly.
connected.
Mhm.
Exactly. Well, you should tell her about lunchtime laughter, because it's
I will
everything.
absolutely do that.
Yeah.
And she's in Florida, so there are a lot of nursing
Yeah.
homes.
Yeah. So
There's a
how,
market there.
how many states do you think you're in right now? Or do you know?
Oh, I don't know, because I don't know
Yeah.
who's tuning
You're on
in.
a pause.
Okay.
Well,
Yeah.
in person, we're we're in LA and New York right now,
Mhm.
because
Okay. But you could be.
oh wait, no, LA,
Yeah.
New York, and Indiana. We do have.
Oh,
we do have-
Indiana. Okay.
yeah.
Okay. That's
Because I mean, we're open to it. It really
Uh-huh.
depends on the state and what their rules are, and the family and what they're comfortable with.
Mhm.
The COVID thing, got to get tested. It's
Oh, yeah.
complicated, right?
Yeah,
You gotta know.
I have a brother with MS in a nursing home, and we can't go see him. He's only
Right.
61, and we can't go see him.
Um,
So that's been a tough thing, and I think that would be good because everything with him is all there. But they did have COVID sweep through their nursing home, and
uh,
I can't even remember what happened. But he was lucky. He was just lucky that he was
yeah.
okay.
I
But
mean, we'll do everything on Zoom. We can
mhm,
go anywhere on Zoom. And in
right.
fact, for us, like, Zoom is kind of, it's germless, so it's
Yes.
great.
Right.
Yeah.
And
It's
Safe for
great.
everyone.
right,
Yeah.
there's no risk.
Yeah.
One thing that's also come out, I've been teaching a memoir class for seniors on Zoom.
Mm-hmm.
That's been also terrific. And
That's great.
and keeps them stimulated, engaged. They have homework, they come and they read, and their stories are remarkable. In fact, I teach today.
Oh, wow.
So, and that's something we're offering now everywhere too, just to keep the opportunity for people to tell their stories and to develop them. And then we could do like a Zoom show, and they all love that idea. So.
Oh, that is so
The
cool.
possibilities are really endless for what you
Mhm.
can do to help seniors. And there are so many baby boomers out there
Right.
that
Mhm.
really could benefit. If it hadn't been for COVID, or let's say after COVID, where would you like to see this go?
Well, I'd like to get back live with people. So, to have our one-on-one kick back up and have our class, our interactive stuff kick back up. But the great thing about this is that I had been talking probably for 6 months about, I need a webinar, I need to be able to reach more people. So we're not going to abandon any of our online stuff. I'm also talking to a company about like a talk show that would just be for seniors, and to like just bring laughter and levity, in a place where, a show where people in the residential communities could tune in and enjoy themselves. And, I mean, I just think there's so much. I'd like to do a lot more training. I'd like to do a lot more speaking engagements, because I think the message is not being said by anyone else, that it's possible to laugh. And, I have a book idea, like, it's okay to laugh, because I just think that people don't know that, and they don't think it's possible. And so I think the more that we can integrate, people with memory loss, like into culture, rather than warehousing them away, I think the numbers are growing so exponentially that like we're going to run out of space. Like, we can't just keep putting them all in these places.
It's just going to get bigger too, because
Right.
the boomer population was so large. It's just going to get bigger for a while.
Right.
Yeah.
So, more of me, more.
Yeah.
That sounds so narcissistic,
All
but
of you, all the time.
No, like more, or more training, more people who like me. It doesn't have to be me, but that idea. And what's amazing is, all of my staff are performers, so that was the great thing. So for us, like Zoom, there wasn't some big, it was like, okay, roll, like we're all actor, performer people. So that's why we're super comfortable, and that should be, we love that as an example to people too. Like that you can just be yourself, be free, lead by example. Like we're big lead by example people. So like nobody works for me who's a miserable person. Like, I'm sorry.
Like, yeah, but you don't want it to project on the people you're trying to help.
So sensitive. So this is the thing about Alzheimer's. Like as their brain diminishes, their sensitivity grows. So, and they do a lot of mirroring. Like whatever you're bringing to the party, they're gonna send it back to you. So, and that's like science. It's mirroring. That's something that they're able to do. Which is why in the acronym, don't forget to be silly. Because even at the end of my mother's life, when she couldn't talk, or you could make a face and she'd make the face back
at you.
So you knew that she was still there. And I think that's another challenge of the disease, is that people will say, oh, well, he's gone, she's gone. And they're not gone. I know firsthand, they're not gone. You just have to work a little harder.
I think it's just fabulous. I'm just thinking about it all because, like you said at the beginning, they're kind of forgotten. And I think people have the fear too of, like you said, approaching them. So do you have any advice for anyone that is scared they don't know what to do around their relative or their loved one?
I mean, I think, the really easy one is music.
Okay.
Is put some songs on your phone and from 1950 and start there, and if when we get a new client, we have an intake form. It's like 5 pages of questions. And it asks, okay, who were their favorite singers? Who were their favorite actors? Who, what's their favorite food? Like that's another one. If you're going in person, I mean, back when we were going in person, you bring a treat. Like that was like part of it. You walk in with whatever their favorite food is, and you sit down and you break bread. It's like ancient. You break bread with a person and you see them and you take them in. And then, you have music, you have pictures. We can play hangman. Like there's things to do to engage, but mostly it's about looking them in the eye and saying, I see you.
Okay.
That's so powerful.
It's super powerful. And it's so interesting to me that it's translated into the business space, because that's what people are feeling when they're working for these big companies. They no longer feel seen because they're literally not seen. Like they're, so you have to go that extra mile and figure out some programming for your people that says, we see you and we care about you.
Right.
And so here's this company, this group of comedians that are going to come in. We're going to go into breakout rooms. You're going to have your voice heard. You're going to be seen. And then you can bring that to your meetings then. Because what I'm hearing is on the Zoom meetings, it's the same 3 people participating in every meeting, because the rest of the people are like, I don't like how I look. I don't, never mind. Not important what I have to say. It's like shy doubled because of the camera. And so if you're bringing a program in to open people up on Zoom, it can only benefit the rest of your interactions. But it's about being seen and feeling seen.
Well, it's so interesting you say that, because one of the reasons that we started this podcast was we felt the demographic of women that we talk to, whether it be, age 40 to 70, don't feel seen and heard as much as they did anymore. And we wanted to give them a platform to say, no, you can have a fabulous life. What can we do to make you feel seen and heard? Because it is so important, no matter your age, no matter your illness, you don't disappear, whether it's cancer or Alzheimer's or aging. You don't disappear. You just feel like you are. So that's awesome.
Well, toward that end, I hear that a lot from women. I had this idea at 55. I'm 57. I just think you gotta, you never know. And it's about courage. It comes back to courage. And, you don't have to accept not being seen.
Right. Yeah.
Like we say it's a superpower. Sometimes you fly under the radar. You can do whatever you want because nobody else is paying attention. You know what I mean? So it can be a superpower. It doesn't have to be a negative thing. And and the fact that you've got this idea at 55, it's an idea. It's not an age-related thing. You're morphing this into a business that's going to help corporations, not just mental challenges, and aging. So it's about being creative and putting your time in, putting the effort, using your knowledge that you've had before. Because we say this a lot, take every piece of experience and knowledge you have and apply it now. It didn't disappear. It's right there.
Right. And not one moment of it was a waste.
Right.
Right. Tend to think, oh, I waited tables for, 5 years, I think, after college. And I was just so embarrassed. Oh, I can't believe I'm a waitress. And, I learned so much.
Yes.
I learned so much that not that there's anything wrong with being a waitress. It was just like, I had gone to college and thought, what am I doing? And it's like, I'm learning people skills. I'm learning.
You probably got a lot of your skits from that too.
Oh, probably customers.
a lot of material.
I was a waitress. Yep, I know. Yeah.
Yeah, and right. It's not
some of the hardest work ever. Yeah.
Yeah, it does. I think I just said, right, it comes back to courage too.
Yes.
Courage and action
and just going with it and ignoring those people who told you it would never work.
Right.
Yes.
Like those 50-year-old men in a room telling you it wouldn't work.
Oh my goodness. This one guy insisted that I meet with him. And I sat down and so I sit down and he goes, so this is your idea? And I was like, yeah. I was like, oh yeah? All right. What? He couldn't hear me. And then I said, what is wrong? He said, well, I didn't put my hearing aids in. I'm like, dude, are you kidding me? Like, are you? And then he was just like insulting me. And then I finally said, you asked me to have this meeting. Like, I don't need to meet with you. It was so awkward.
Oh my goodness.
God, that was crazy.
And it's like, you don't have time for that.
No, I'm trying to get this.
I want to be open, you want to be open to ideas, but I think, protecting yourself too, just trusting your instinct. Like one of the things about being a woman of a certain age is, like we've lived, we know some stuff.
Yeah.
And you feel something instinctively. You meet someone and you're like, oh yeah, that energy, I don't want that. And I use that a lot with hiring. Interesting. Like I just get a vibe.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You can sense, it's like you can smell the BS a mile away. Like you just know.
Yeah.
And you're like,
or the BS or the negativity. You can't, this is the thing. If you have an idea, you cannot have any negative energy around you. And I'm sorry if I'm coming to you live from California.
That's okay. No, that's okay.
Like if you guys had a podcast idea and there was someone who's like, who's going to listen to that? Are you kidding me? Like there's so many podcasts. Why do you think that? Goodbye.
Yeah.
Walk away from the person who throws the negative.
Right.
And I've had to let people go because of that, because I will not tolerate it. There's too much at stake, too much opportunity to help people.
Right.
To say,
so much can be lost if you had listened to them.
Which in our 20s and 30s, we might have been more like, they have a point.
Oh,
there's something I'm missing. Now it's like, I don't have time for that. Like, you know your intuition. You know when something is right. And I think that is a gift, or we like to say a freedom that comes.
A freedom that comes with our
aging.
age. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. We had that with Lunchtime Laughter that first week. My investor, who I love dearly, she's become a friend and she's a wonderful supporter. And she was like, I don't think I get this. Like, I think maybe you should go and, script it and make, because, everybody out here is in entertainment, right? So they see something that isn't click, click, click. And it's like, it seems kind of, and you should go off and, figure out what you're doing. And I was like, no, I appreciate your input and I'm going to learn publicly. Like, I'm going to keep, because that's the thing you learn as a comedian, that you fail publicly all the time. That's the gig, right? You write a joke in the shower, you say, oh, that's going to be so funny. And you get on stage and it's crickets. And you're like, oh, well, I guess that didn't work. I just failed there. And so I was very comfortable with trial and error live streaming. Like, I'm not worried about it because, and we would say, this is a workshop, we're figuring it out, but let's figure out how to laugh together. And as we did that, instead of going away, because if you go away, you run the risk of then people are trying to get on. They're like, what happened to that thing? Oh, never mind. Like, you have to keep going. It's the same thing with the podcast. You have to keep it going and be a presence. And so, but yeah, you gotta be strong-willed. Gotta feel like a sense of purpose in what you're doing, I think.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you see the change. You see that you're changing lives with it, which gives you more energy to say, I'm on the right path here. Like, this is right.
Yes, definitely. Yeah.
And for families, you know, we've done interviews with caregivers who have taken, we just did, as a matter of fact, today one just went up with working daughters, and it's a book, an author, Liz O'Donnell. And, you know, they need to sit and be able to laugh with their family too. If there's a connection there and they can feel like that person's, like you said, they're still there. They're laughing with me. There's a connection. So what you're doing is just awesome. It really is.
Yes, it is. Could you share your email and how people could get in touch with you?
Oh, sure. So it's laughteroncall.com is the website. And if you want to reach me, I think it's best to do info@laughteroncall.com.
And there are videos that people can watch that go on the website. And then the Laughter at Lunchtime is every single day, or?
Lunchtime Laughter is every day, Monday through Friday. And it's 12 to 12:30 Pacific time. And again, if you email info@laughteroncall.com, you'll get the link, because we did get Zoom bombed, so we have to be a little more. That was scary.
That hasn't happened yet, thank goodness. Yeah.
I would love to let our listeners and our subscribers in our group know before this even goes up that this is available and they can get in touch with you. Yeah. Because I think that's such a great.
It is.
Gosh.
So many
something
women,
to look
so many
forward
families,
to with your.
Well, I can have after we hang up, I can send you the Lunchtime Laughter link.
Oh, great!
That would be great.
Oh, great!
That'd be
great. Because I think that would be very helpful. Yeah, we have a private group, like for our just a private Facebook group, and I think we have about 2,000 members in that. So I think that they would. There's so many women our age that are affected by this, and I think that they would really like to find out.
And we love to put things on, so as long as it's not TikTok, we're a little afraid of TikTok.
We haven't done
we're
that.
We're good with Twitter, and you know, we started this literally press and record, having no clue how to do it.
Oh, we did.
But
it's just about been about a year.
It'll be a year.
Yeah.
We knew.
Yeah.
We just knew that there was something out there, like you said, there was a need for it, and we've been absolutely amazed of the response we've gotten from women who just it's just for us it's when people say, I feel like you're talking to me at my table, like hear me, and I'm not so alone. That just hits us like that's everything for us.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. Well, that alone piece, you know, helping people feel less alone.
Right. Especially now, especially in the time of COVID, where they are alone.
I know. Yeah. Colleen lives down the street from me, and I haven't seen her since March. So she lives just 2 blocks away.
Yeah, she drops off something. I forget to drop off something. So, but it's also for people. We've said it's given a time to kind of get creative. And pivot and figure out what you can do. We've talked to many women entrepreneurs who have taken an idea and just, wow, okay, that was brilliant the way you pivoted that. You know what I mean? Like, so it's possible.
Yes.
Yeah, totally.
It is.
Totally.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for taking time.
Oh, you're welcome.
You're definitely a busy person, so we really appreciate it. But this is such a fantastic thing that you are doing.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
The way you came up with it.
And please stay in touch, because we love to support it and anything we can do to help.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Thank you so much. I'll send you the link for Lunchtime Laughter.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right. Bye, gals. Thank you.
Bye.
Well, we want to thank Dani so much for being on our show. This was just, I think, such a remarkable thing to learn about. I'm taking that, and it probably will. It'll cross my path sometime. Probably, who knows when, in some form. I'm going to take what I've learned from her and use that. I would love to learn even more about it. So her website, like I said, laughteroncall.com, you can get on there and learn even more about it.
And it's always a wonderful thing to listen to a story about someone who has a passion to make such a difference in someone's life, because the after effects of what she's doing are so huge. And now she's branching into corporations to build a community. It's really, laughter is a wonderful thing no matter what you're going through. It can be a dire situation, but it can also be just trying to connect with someone, make friends, things like that. Laughter always seems to connect a community. So she's definitely using it and branching out into all these different areas. So we wish her the best of luck.
We
with
do.
all of that.
Yes. And when you said that she's passionate, you can tell just talking to her how passionate she is about this. So you've got the right source. If you're looking for something like this, she is the great source for it.
Right, exactly. And we just hope that we can keep, we're in season 2 now. We really want to make sure we're getting people that can help and benefit women of our age range, because a lot of women our age range are going through aging parents, and which makes women realize that we still have a lot of time left. What do you want to do with it? Tell us. Email us at hotflashescooltopics@gmail.com. Let us know your ideas. We always appreciate stories and ideas from our listeners, so make sure to do that and subscribe, and please review. Every time we get a review, number one, it touches us because we know we're affecting other people's lives in a positive way, and 2, it makes the algorithms happy. I don't understand what an algorithm is really, but it makes them very happy, and that just means we get out to more people.
Yes.
More people will hear of our podcast, and that's really what we want to do is make sure that our voice is getting heard by as many people as possible. So we appreciate reviews very much, right, Bridget?
Right, that's right, we do. Yes. No, we don't like them at all. No, we love
Right,
them. Yes, we love them.
We get excited every time we get an email from a listener or a review from somebody, because that just means that they feel heard and they feel seen, just like Dani said, and that's really important.
And we've had wonderful followers on our Facebook group, and that people, all of you out there that are helping each other out. I just want to say thank you to all those people on the Facebook group as well, because you're helping each other. When someone puts up something they're going through, I just love to see the responses.
I know, we get such genuine, heartfelt responses. So like Bridget said, we really appreciate the community and the fact that women feel safe, that they can talk about what's going on in their lives, and they feel like someone hears them.
Yes. So, but thank you all very much. And don't forget to tune in and listen and share.
We will talk to you guys next time.
Bye-bye.